It always comes to this. More nice shit. Hey there guys, here to do another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I had no doubt just showed off the thicker, bolder line on the tentacles. All the little tentacles and some of the bigger ones kind of worked back to the center of the chest, as well as we redid the yellow and the blue in the tentacles. We didn't need to redo the orange or the red tones because they were already bright enough. Oranges and reds seem to cover black the best. Yellows cover fairly well as well, but again, we wanted to make sure that the brightest parts, the surface parts of the tentacles were standing out the most. So reinforcing the color for effectively a third pass, yellow and blue. And I think that the orange and red in these has been done twice. So in between 2 and 3 passes for most of the color on my chest now. Still some spots, as I mentioned, that we're going to hit again, but we're going to be taking a break from that to work on my left sleeve. But for now, we'll be talking about my right sleeve. So I had the second pass on my right sleeve last week, the upper part of it. As you can see, it's pretty solid. It's a little dry right now. Again, I do these vlogs quite often at the end of my workday, so I haven't moistened this or lotioned this, but pretty solid stretch of red now. This is again meant to be this color. This was the color we were going for. In other words, like the color we have on my neck. So it's got that kind of a purpley red to it, but darker. It wasn't meant to be bright. Again, we have bright red over black already over here. So if we wanted bright red, we would have used, this one was nebula red, where what we've been using for this stuff is red velvet, which is kind of ironic, and maybe not ironic, but most people have been saying that my sleeve looks like velvet. So it's kind of funny that it's actually red velvet ink. So obviously we had the next session. Anyone watching this video already knows that. Yeah, we did the whole lower. We did this in about 2 hours. It was a little over 2 hours. It went easier than the first time, just like I said it would. Second pass or skimming takes less time. It's still juicy. This is the day of, so I haven't even cleaned this up yet since the initial cleaning and green glide that Terry put on there. So I got pretty juicy today, but I still think the lower arm is not going to be as good as the upper arm, because even the second pass, there was a bit of a struggle getting solid saturation on the wrist. You can see it in there if you look real close. I'm full disclosure, so I'm showing you the weak spots. There's this part on my top wrist here that does not like to be saturated, not in red anyway. We also did not do the touch-up on the hand, because this whole part of my hand is still a little bit healing in here. The stuff up here is good, but we decided that we're going to do a small session here in a few weeks just on the hand on its own. So, and when we do that, I'll probably go a little bit farther with the red too. I'll probably go, I don't know how far I'll go. I don't think I'll do all the way up to fingers, but I might come up a bit onto the fingers. We'll definitely do farther, just because that whole session will be about that hand anyway, and it's not going to take very long. So we may as well have some fun with it. And even the red that we put on there during the first pass, it actually did better than I was expecting, in that I was expecting there to be almost nothing left of it. So I had modest expectations for that and succeeded even those. Or not succeeded those, not even those. I didn't have high expectations. So any result that had some red in it was a success as far as I was concerned. Yeah, but they could definitely be better. So there was some chance that I might have let Terry do that today. A couple of reasons why we didn't do it. First off, well, Terry was feeling a little banged up from airsoft, and he had a long weekend, lots of shit. But he would have done it if I had been on board too. But this was actually one of the most painful sessions I've had in quite a while, believe it or not. And I think it's because even though the tissue looked mostly good to go, deep down, the deep tissue in my arm was not fully healed yet, I don't believe. And so just about as soon as we started working on it, it felt quite a bit more painful than it did the first time, and probably one of the more painful arm sessions I've had. We did 4 weeks in between, so not too crazy. Like, it's not like we were rushing it. We did 4 weeks in between on the upper too, but because the upper healed easier, there was no real issues with the healing. It was real fast healing both times, especially last time. I think I was peeling in 2 days. It's like 45 hours or something. Because it was such an easy heal on the top part of my arm, I don't think there was much damage. There was no dryness, anything like that. But on the lower arm, we probably should have waited a little bit longer. That being said, here we are, 9 sessions in to a proposed 10-session sleeve, which I've been very clear about since the start. I've laid out pretty well week by week how this was going to go. There were some... I knew it would be 10. I didn't know what the last few weeks would look like. I just knew for what we were in for to bank on that many at least. And then the last few weeks were going to change depending on how things settled. So we are going to be finishing at 10. I don't consider the little hand one to be part of the sleeve, because that's... even though it is part of the sleeve, it's like kind of like an extension or a bonus round or an extra. So when we get to that here in a few weeks, that I won't be counting as part of the 10 sessions. The last session we do will be probably a little bit more red over the wrist there, where I pointed out. Didn't love to take it. I think there's going to be a few other spots up in here that don't take the red as well. There's one spot in here, and you have to get real close, and I still don't think I can show it because it's very faint, but there's just a little bit of a blue tinge from the black not fully saturating, but it's real faint. Like, you can barely see it. That's pretty solid red. And now I want to put this up here, that being red velvet over non-tattooed skin, and that is over black, so it's a bit of a different color, but I actually prefer the red velvet over black quite a bit. It actually looks fuller. I don't know, it looks a little thin. It looks more like crimson or like cherry red, just on its own. So a lot of people will probably think, well, Remy, when you showed off that sleeve here last week, it was way redder. It looked like that, right? Or even maybe a little brighter at the top, and it's faded back quite a bit. No, this is actually what the color looks like. Like, the intention again was never to have it be this red. If I had wanted that red, we would have gone brighter red. So this is actually the color that we were hoping for. Now, what will be interesting even for me is to see this go for a couple years, because this is a couple years. This is now over 2 years old, and it's still pretty bright. It'll be interesting to see the darker red age over the next few years. That being said, if it dulls out more, it's not really a big deal. I just wanted to make sure it was solid. I wasn't like, oh, well, if we do it more than once, it'll be super bright. It was more like, I want it to be solid so there are no mag lines and things like this. Especially on my lower arm, there were some streaks where you could see stop and starts, and where it was swelling. And there was... at one point when Terry was saturating my lower forearm, where he left off with the mag, you could see like a line in my skin of swelling. And then in the finished product of the tattoo, you could see that line where the skin welted up, almost like scar formation, but it wasn't. It was just a hard edge from where he was shading me with the mag. You have to go back in after and smooth all of that out. So again, the second pass over this stuff isn't to make it brighter or darker in the case of a blackout, so much as it is to smooth out those mag lines and swelling lines and just different undulation, and also when the skin isn't when it's fluffing up on you and it's swelling, it can be hard to even tell if it's saturated because it's so puffy that it looks more saturated than it is. So you kind of almost need that the sober eyes on it the next day to make an accurate read of whether it's saturated or not. Anyway, so now we're going to be taking, other than the hand session in a few weeks, I had another session with Terry planned for next week just because I wasn't sure what, it's always better to, expect to need to do a little more than you think. And then, under promise, over deliver, so to speak. But I canceled that one. And now we're going to take like 3-4 weeks off of this. So this will all be pretty chill by then. We're going to come in. We're going to do the white highlights that I've been talking about in the high points. The most of the white is done now, as we've done the 2 passes. But there's certain spots in here where you can see we've gotten high points of the white. We're going to just enrich those one more time, like places like this, or in the ditch here. There's some spots that we want in the forefront. So those are going to get white highlights, as was always the plan, just to enrich the contrast just a bit more. From there, the sleeve is done. That'll also include things like, for whatever reason, this leaf here didn't go as dark as, say, this leaf here did. So we're probably going to run some gloom over that, Panthera gloom, to make that just a bit darker. Like I said, some small polishing of the red, just little tweaks. So that'll probably only be an hour and a half, 2 hours of just touch-ups like you would do on any sleeve. Just about any sleeve at the end. I would recommend some kind of a polishing run or a quick touch-up. Just due diligence, because almost never things are going to go perfect and not need any help on one pass. So these are all just due diligence things as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, that's going to be 3 or 4 weeks from now, and I've told Terry, I'm going to take a bit of time off getting tattooed twice a week, every week. I'll be back on that train again here in May, this being early March. I don't want to burn myself out too much, so I'm going to give myself most of April just getting tattooed by Rick. And then in May, I want to black out my back finally. Been putting it off quite a while now. Just got to kind of get to it. And I think we'll go through that in 4 or 5 sessions. Could be a little longer, but that's my realistic outlook for that. And then from there, I have some more ideas for Terry, but it's just little hatchet man jobs, like fixing up more of my head tattoos and redetailing some things. Yeah, little odd jobs until I get to the place where we are finally creating the third back piece, which might start by the end of the year. Tough to say. Early 2024 most likely, but could be as early as late this year, depending on how well the back blends and settles. Anyway, I'll show off my arm, the full stretch. And again, this being healed, this being fresh, we can look forward to the lower arm looking similar to that. And this is mostly finished. So, though there is one big session left to go and a small session on the hand, this is basically what you're looking at. These roses and this red. All right, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.